Well, hello everybody, my name is Joe, and today we are going to be talking Visual Basic. And in this video, it is my goal to teach you how to use if statements. And we will be making this program. Let me pull it up really quickly. And all it is a greetings generator, and it asks you whether you're a male or female, if you're a child, and if you're an adult female, it asks you what your marital status is. I'll give you an example. My name is Joe. I click go, and it says, hello, Mr. Joe. I can click clear, everything's cleared. If I'm an unmarried woman, my name is Rebecca. I click go, and it says, hello, Ms. Rebecca. So that's what we are going to be doing today. It's pretty easy, and let's jump right into it. I'm going to create a new project. Make sure you name your project. That's the first thing you should always do. Greetings generator for tutorial. We want to choose Windows Forms application and click OK. Alright, so here's our form. Now hopefully if you're looking this up you have a little bit of knowledge of Visual Basic and how it works. This is the program window essentially. And let's get started. We're going to need to throw in a couple of group boxes, some radio boxes, and some buttons. But first let's start off with the button because that's the most important thing. So we can drag a button over here from my toolbox on the left. Let's resize it up a little bit. The first thing you should always do when putting a new element onto your form is name it. So I'm going to call it BTN, that's shorthand for button, go. Then I'm going to change the text to go. Alright, now next we need a place for the user to input his or her name. So we do that with a text box right there, and we'll put the text box here. We can resize it a little bit, and let's move this up a little bit. Let's name it txt name. Alright. Then what else do we have on our form? We have a clear button, so we can add another button. We can resize this a little bit, call it BTN clear, change the text to clear fields. Now we need a place for the greeting to show up. To do that we're going to use a label. So let's put a label right here. We'll call it LBL greeting, and we're going to delete the text in here. That way you can't even see it. Alright, and last but not least we need some radio buttons. So to use a radio button you need to put it in what's called a group box, and this basically just holds all the buttons for you in one space. So I'll put one group box here. We'll call it GRP gender. This is going to be the male or female one, and then change the text to gender, and that changes what it says up here. I'm just going to copy this and paste it again so they're the same size, and I'm going to move it over here. We'll rename it GRP age. Change this to age. Then one more time, paste onto there. I'm just using Control-C and Control-V to copy and paste. Those are just keyboard shortcuts. You could go to Edit, Copy, Paste. Then let's change this to Group Marital. And then we'll change the text to Marital Status. Alright. And then put our radio buttons in here. Radio buttons, there it is, radio button. This has one radio button. We'll call this RDO male. Change the text to male. And what I'm going to do for this is change this property called checked to true. And what this does is just by default, it makes, when you run the program, it'll make this by default selected. You don't have to do that. I'm just choosing to do that. I'm going to copy and paste this, just duplicate it quickly. We'll make this female. Change the text to female. We do the same thing over here for age. Change this to child. RDO child. Do it again. RDO adult. Adult. And all we're doing right now is laying out our form, putting all of the necessary components in to the form for which we're going to need. We'll get into the coding in just a second. This is unmarried. And then this is REO married. And alright, so that should be everything that we need for the box. Oh, I didn't even realize these need to be unchecked, because we don't want both of them to be checked when the program runs. Alright, there we go. So let's get into some coding. Let me first tell you what we want to do. We want it to make sure, or we want to use if statements, so when the user selects, if the user is a female and she is an adult, this marital status box pops up. Because whether you're an unmarried or married female, you have different titles. Obviously, for adult males, everyone's a Mr. For children who are males, you're a master, or you used to be, at least back in the day. So we don't have to worry about marital status for men. We only have to worry about marital status for females who are adults. So we will make it so that when female adult is checked, this marital status box pops up. Also, depending on whether you are unmarried or married, we will change the greeting of the label. So let's get into it. I'm going to double click the Go button, and this will bring up my code. I have a private sub, and this says when button Go is clicked, do all the stuff within this this little area right here. So let's get into the if statements. There are three different types of if statements. There is simply if this happens, then. There's what's called an else if, which is just like another if statement but in succession to the first one. And then there is an else statement, which is an otherwise statement. If you're getting confused on what I'm saying, don't worry. I will type it out and you'll be able to see what's going on in just a second. So I'm going to start off by saying if RDO male dot checked equals true, then. Oh, also, we want this to say and RDO child dot checked equals true. So what this is saying is if radio male button is checked, and you could also have an or here in other situations, but in this case we need an and, RDO child dot checked equals true, then we want the label text to say hello master, and then we're going to put an ampersand here. That's called concatenating. It just means that when you have regular text and an element of the form, you just need to add that ampersand in between. Txt name dot text, and then I'm going to concatenate again and end with the period. Now hopefully you already have a little bit of knowledge of Visual Basic, but if not, this is saying that if the radio button is checked for male and the child button is checked, then your greeting is going to say hello master, whatever the user entered into the text box, and end with the period. The computer reads what's in between these quotation marks as literal words, not as code. So you need to make sure you have the quotes around this, concatenate the text, name.text, and then concatenate the period. Alright, so that's our first if statement. Now if we want to add more if statements, we have to add an else if. Alright, so now we can go into our second one. Else if RDO male.checked equals true, and this time we're going to make this person an adult. So RDO adult.checked equals true. Then we just want the label greeting.text. We want it to say hello Mr. Concatenate, same thing as before, txt name.text, concatenate, and with a period. Alright, now this is going into the women's side now. So we say else if RDO female.checked equals true and RDO child.checked equals true, then LBL greeting, and this is all routine at this point, .text equals hello, we're going to call her a miss, hello miss, space, concatenate. Same exact process as before, we're just simply changing the words that are being said. Alright, now this brings us up to our last option. We could say else if RDO female.checked is true and RDO adult.checked is true, but a shorter way of doing this is just simply putting else. What this means is if none of these other parameters, meaning none of these are true, then do this. It's like another way of saying otherwise. So I'm just going to say else. And now here's where it gets a little bit tricky. We need to use another if statement, because remember when I said that child and adults and marital status, all that stuff changes. We need to change what the label says depending on whether or not married or unmarried is checked. So this is saying if RDO female.checked is true and she's an adult, then do this. If RDO married.checked equals true, then label greeting .text equals, and since she's married, we're going to call her a Mrs. Concatenate txt name.text concatenate period. Oh, I gotta spell this right. That'd be nice. Alright, now here we can do an otherwise or an else again. This is basically saying if RDO married is not checked, or if RDO unmarried is checked. It's all saying the same thing. We're going to call her a Ms. And then add all this same stuff. There we go. Alright, so that handles this for the button. So that if we run the program, let's test it out. Joe. Hello, Master Joe. If I change to an adult. Hello, Mr. Joe. If I'm an unmarried or a married female. Hello, Mrs. Kathy. If I'm an unmarried female. Hello, Miss Kathy. Now that works just fine. But we want it to show, we want this marital status box to show up only if she is a female who is an adult. So we have to code that to make sure that happens. Alright. So what we're going to do, we're going to go over here, click the marital status group box, and change this visible property to false. this will make it that by default when the program runs, it does not show up. See, it's not there. So let's go into our form code and do some coding to make sure that when female adult is checked, then marital status pops up. I double click this female button and this brings up the code for the event that the female button is changed. So I'm going to say if RDO adult.checked equals true, then show group marital status. Else group marital status, the visible property is false. Alright. Now we also need to add this in for the male. We need to make sure that when it goes back to male, that the marital status turns off. Alright. Now if we run this program, you'll see that, oh, it's not popping up. What did I do wrong here? Oh, there we go. Now you'll see that the male and female, when you switch between the two, marital status pops up. But it doesn't go away when it goes back to child. We want it to go back away when you switch back to child. So we're going to do the same exact thing that we did before. We're going to double click this adult button and say if RDO female.checked equals true, then group marital dot visible equals true. Else group marital dot visible equals false. And then we have to go in for adult. I'm sorry, not adult, for child. And then we just have to say group marital dot visible equals false. So what I did, I made it so that if this RDO button is changed, if the female is checked, then show the marital status. If female is not checked, then don't show marital status. Then finally, let's code this clear button, and this is easy. We just double click clear fields. We change the text of the name text box, and I'm just going to put two parentheses, or two quotes. That's an empty string, it'll just clear it. Then label greeting dot text, and this is just clearing the greeting. And now everything should work out perfectly. Notice it does not come up unless adult is checked. Check that out. And look at that, when I click clear fields, everything clears. I go back to adult male. Hello, Mr. John. So hopefully that gave you a little bit of an insight onto how if statements work. I will upload this program for you to download somewhere, and I'll put the link in the description box so you can see what I did in order to make all of this work. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I'm not a Visual Basic master by any means, but maybe I'll be able to help you out a little bit. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.